So I was reflecting on this word that I've been aware of for several years through my appreciation of Brazilian music. Here's a tie-in to mindfulness practice. And the word is saudade. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. I don't know much Portuguese, but to my Portuguese and Brazilian friends out there, I say bom dia, good morning. But the word saudade, which is spelled Saudade, refers to a mournful or bittersweet longing towards someone or something that we once experienced that can never ever be experienced again. So think about that. A mournful or bittersweet sense of longing towards someone or something that we once encountered, appreciated, loved, and can never return there again. And in my musing about this, I thought that this is a wonderful frame for mindfulness practice, talking about stability and adaptability in mindfulness practice. That is, if we can be with that bittersweet longing, there is a path actually to compassion and joy from that bittersweet mourning or longing. When we stay connected to the heart, when we keep our heart open to that longing, to that bittersweet sadness, to the wishing that it would be the way it was, and it will never be again. Then we have an opportunity to cultivate greater compassion, greater peace in our hearts, and I would say greater ease and joy, because acceptance paves the way for ease and joy. There is another wonderful saying by the ancient 14th century Persian poet mystic Hafiz, and the transliteration goes like this: we should make all spiritual talk simple today. God is trying to sell you something and you don't want to buy. And that's what all your suffering is. Your constant haggling, your manic screaming over the price. Let me say it this way. Let's make all spiritual talk simple today. Reality. Reality is trying to sell you something, and you don't want to buy. That's what all your suffering is. Your constant haggling, your manic screaming over the price. And so if you've been on retreat with Linda and I, you probably know that I pretty much recite that poem on every retreat, because I think it nicely encapsulates a mindfulness teaching around how we suffer when we argue with reality and lack acceptance and stay attached to what we want when reality is saying, no, that's not what you're getting. You're getting something else. So moving beyond that right now, I know I've talked about this before, but hopefully we can go a little bit deeper today, and perhaps this can trigger some ideas within you, within your own mindfulness practice. Years ago, I came up with a little framework. I love alliteration, and I call this the 5 R's of mind-body regulation. And lately, I've been integrating these processes or skills into mindfulness practice, especially mindful movement practice. So see how this might apply to your own life to create a sense of stability and also adaptability, resilience. The first R is that of rooting. As trees grow deep roots into the earth, so the elemental quality here is that of the earth. In a primal way, rooting refers to our body. How can we stay connected to our bodies so that our bodies don't become overly reactive in mindfulness practice? Well, one way, of course, is to bring awareness in, stay connected to the breath is another simple way, and yet profoundly deep way of staying connected to the body. So that's the physical rooting aspect. There's a mental rooting aspect that has to do with, what is my intention? What are my highest values? How can I water those roots, if you will, so that they deepen? And that watering, that metaphorical watering in the context of mindfulness practice has to do with, how do I manage my thinking? How do I manage my speaking? How do I manage my acting and relating? So the roots of what I'm intending to grow go deeper. Also playing, this is from my Tai Chi practice, where yes, the body is very deeply rooted, but we also value in Tai Chi how to uproot your opponent or even uproot a leg that is in motion. And so the corollary here is, what is it that I want to uproot in my life that is unskillful, not in alignment with my values? Well, one way is to not give that energy. If you find yourself reacting in mindfulness practice or in everyday life as a mindfulness practitioner, if you find yourself reacting with excessive or aggression that is just creating more cortisol, stress within your body, mind, then maybe it's time to add some water to the fire, It's time to guard against and uproot through the process of attention, move your attention to the roots that truly sustain you. Speaking of water, the second R, moving now from rooting, is relaxation. And I mention relaxation because I associate relaxation with the fluidity and especially the softness of water. And when we are mindful in our practice and in everyday life, we can connect with this sense of softness. And to the degree we are mindful, then, and we value softness, then we won't so reactively linger in a state of hardness. Sometimes to know that softness, we also have to know and accept the places within us that are constricted, hard, rigid. That's maybe what we might call too stable for our own good. Stability has a shadow side. So in bringing mindfulness into the body, we can begin to let go. And lately I've been musing with the idea that an embodied way to let go, because often we associate letting go with the mind, letting go of a thought, for example. An embodied way is to relax into the very situation or conversation that we might normally recoil from. I'm not saying to be a glutton for punishment. I'm saying sometimes we can't avoid certain uncomfortable realities. And we can also train our mind and body to relax into. So relaxation is not just for the body, it's also for the heart-mind. Last week, I believe I spoke about expanding, the space of the heart-mind. Relaxing into the situation also creates less tightness in the mind. Our attachments can create pain and suffering. And when we relax into the moment, we embody a sense of stability, adaptability, because we can move with whatever's coming at us, and also create peace inside the body, mind, heart. The third R I want to talk about, very apparent, really. The third R is respiration. The elemental quality is that of air. That's pretty straightforward. And in terms of the body, of course, we're always breathing as long as we're alive. And an anxious, stressed out breath is typically shallow, constricted, not smooth. And when we can bring mindfulness to our breath, even without regulating it, just staying connected to the breath can also associate us with this reality, this here, this now. On the other hand, not that mindfulness is about, deeply relaxing, because you can be a mindfulness meditator while being highly stressed and not relaxed. On the other hand, if you're utilizing mindfulness for stress reduction, pain reduction, or mindful movement practices such as yoga and Tai Chi and Qigong, you can bring the mind into the body in such a way that you engage in breath that is long, slow, deep, smooth, calm, and fine like a narrow thread. And connecting with those qualities of long, slow, deep, calm, smooth, fine breath can bring you deep into the present moment with a sense of, on our better days, serenity, a sense of ease. So one way to cultivate ease is, of course, not to think about ease, but rather to embody ease. And so this is the respiration element. And, all of these components, rather, are interdependent, because when we breathe in an easy way, we're more likely to relax. When we relax, we're more likely to stay rooted and connected. Relaxation creates a sense of safety, a sense of stability, which allows us to connect more deeply, which allows us to breathe more freely. The fourth R, which I rather love, I have to say. It's not normally spoken about in mindfulness culture. And the fourth R is rhythm, rhythm, rhythm. I came across this wonderful film. Perhaps some of you have seen it on YouTube. Maybe I'll send it out again. I sent it out maybe a year ago. I believe it's entitled Bodhisattva in Metro. And a bodhisattva, for those of you who aren't aware, in the Buddhist culture, is a being, essentially an enlightened being, who lives on until every sentient being is free from suffering. That is their mission, a bodhisattva. So in this little film, there's a man sitting in a subway in France, and he walks onto the subway. Everybody has a grim, sometimes a little angry, judgmental face, all sitting in that constricted, uncomfortable silence. And the camera comes onto this man's face. He starts grinning. And after a while, he starts chuckling. And the people are a little bit uncomfortable. They're moving in their subway seats. After a while, the man is uproariously laughing. And without going through the whole process, by the end of that subway ride, the entire train is filled with uproarious laughter and joy because of the emotional contagion sparked by that one man. I think it's a movie scene. I think it's a contrived scene, but there's truth there. In the 70s, part of my research thesis was about emotional contagion, the idea that emotions are contagious. Just spend, 10 minutes with a very negative, complaining, or angry person. You'll know what I mean by emotional contagion. Or spend some time with an uplifting person who's telling jokes appropriately, and you might have a different experience. I'm working and musing with this idea of emotion contagion in mindfulness practice to look at rhythm contagion, rhythm contagion. So that is, you may find yourself when you're connected to this process of rhythm. It might be in mindfulness meditation where the rhythm of your body is sort of jittery, or even your breath. Not that we want to control the breath, but if we relax into the body and the breath, you might find the rhythm, not only of your body in terms of the breath, but also your mind settling, the amount of thoughts, maybe a little bit more space being created. And so this idea of rhythm can be joined with our mindfulness practice at any time, reflecting on, for example, this is a common one, the rate of your communication, your speech. Are you speaking faster because there's anxiety and fire? And are you really intending to be a calming influence to that person in front of you? And to the degree you're mindful of that, you can engage in rhythm shifting, slowing down. In general, I like to say, and this is again from my Tai Chi practice, and it applies to mindfulness practice, slow is the fast route to mind-body regulation or mind-body awareness. Slow is the fast route because when we're moving quickly, speaking quickly, the brain doesn't have an opportunity to catch up. So I would invite you to play with slow, especially during the evening. Purposefully speak slowly, walk slowly, and lower the stimulation, the lighting in the evening, to help you prepare for the slow rhythm of sleep. Now, I'm not saying that fast is bad, because fast can be really skillful. So in bringing mindfulness to our everyday life here, we want to know that where the balance is, because sometimes, especially we want to exercise, we might need to move a little quicker than we're necessarily inclined to do. And that's where a faster movement, literal movement, might be in order. But I would say for most of us, slow is a way that we can balance, because most of us in our Western culture have been so conditioned by fast output, communication, all of that impinging upon mind and body. And so when we're mindful of the rhythms, we can begin to shift in a way that's more harmonious or balanced for most of us. The last R is that of, this is the one a lot of my students forget, and it is remembering. The last R, remembering. So remembering, as I've mentioned from time to time, is also another way of thinking about mindfulness. Remembering the body, remembering the mind, remembering the breath, the heart, remembering your intentions to create stability and adaptability within the mind, body, heart. Essentially, remembering when you're awake in the day to awaken to your own way of being in a way that's compassionate, aware, non-attached. Creating more space through the air element. For example, using that metaphorically, to the degree we are non-attached to a story about ourselves or someone else, we create more space, more space. And spaciousness supports ease, spaciousness supports joy.